is Nitspedia. I think it's somehow related with Nits facets, with one which won all kinds of awards last year and the year before, I guess. So please, Joel, tell us more about that.
Thank you. This is almost like my annual ritual to give my update on what I've been doing in NYC with SMW. Just some caveats. My laptop died last night, so I had to borrow, thanks Kawaji, a laptop last minute. So there might be some funky things. Some people say my presentations are funky already, so it will be funkier still. So like Yuri pointed out, we've been playing with SMW since 2008. And then about 2 years ago, we got a chance to enter a submission into this contest in New York City called Big Apps. We managed to win the Large Organization Award. And back then, we were basically using SMW as a dashboard. We partnered with Reveletics. They're a semantic technology, now big data company. And we were using Bulgara as a triple store, and I was just pulling things from that. We won that award, and then my boss said, he was expecting that we'll get a lot of contracts from the city and anything, and then we just got the certificate. So the following year, I told my boss, let's do this again. I said, okay, yeah, good luck. Yeah, I'm not doing that anymore. So I decided to head out on my own, do my own startup. Ontodia is the name of the company. We're trying to humanize linked data. That's why you have all these people, and even the logo is made of people. And thankfully, that gamble paid off, so we won the grand prize last year for, again, using Semantic MediaWiki. But this time around, when we look at the data that the city of New York was exposing, we found out that they were not showing the metadata. The metadata was hidden. So we basically wrote a bot that scraped all the metadata, suck all the metadata, and then also derive some metadata on our own by sampling the data sets. And we pump it into SMW and created a semantic data dictionary. And that won the award. But then the first comment that people made to me is, hey, you're just talking about the metadata. Why not just link the data about the city itself? So that's what we're doing now. So that's NYC. So this is a 3-year, 4-year project going almost from 2011. We were federating data. We use it as a dashboard. 2012, basically a data dictionary. And now this is what we're building, is Pediacities, Encyclopedia of Cities. And it's for helping create the smart cities. Just some context though, because I only have 20 minutes. I'll just give some context and then do a demo. So in New York City, it passed the first open data law, municipal open data law. Let me skip back. So in the US, we have this freedom of information law. So anybody can write an agency and ask for information, and those agencies are obliged to comply with that request. And it's a very expensive process because typically one-off, and a lot of data of journalists use that. So open data became more of a reality when Obama came in, and he said, I want open data to be the default. And Bloomberg last year also wanted New York to lead the way in exposing all that data about New York City. So we want to organize big link open data about cities. Big data, that's a marketing term. That's the flavor of the month, of the year. Link data, I don't think I need to talk about link data here. I'm just a practitioner. A lot of hardcore researchers I follow are here. But the open data part is what I want to focus on. It's the piece of content or data is open for anyone free to use, reuse, and redistribute, and that's what we're doing. We have about 2,000 data sets that the city is exposing, and then we're getting other data sets from the federal space, like the US Census, NOAA, and all that other stuff, and then we're mashing it all up. Okay, so that's the background. I can skip this link open data. You know the story of the web of documents. That's where we are now. We want to go to, and Tim Berners-Lee, we have this, and we want to go to this web of data, right? But this web of data project has been going on. The original paper, not the paper, the article was published in Scientific American in 2001. It still hasn't really come to pass. Maybe I don't know why. I'm kind of frustrated why. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to do our own thing to make it happen. So we're trying to build it at a city scale. So I can skip this. I'm sure you've seen this TED Talk. I'll skip that. So now all this open data is being opened because in that TED Talk, Tim Berners-Lee challenged everybody to release raw data now. So he got his wish. So all these governments, the UN, the US, EU is doing all this open data, and the floodgates have opened. And as you can see, NSA is the biggest collector and generator of data, right? But seriously speaking, this is, again, I guess that's why big data is such the term of art right now, as this is what we're dealing with, right? So I think it's projected by EMC by 2020, we'll have 90 zettabytes of data. So just to give some context to that, if a cup of tea is 1 gigabyte, 1 zettabyte is the Great Wall of China. Because as you can see, and I even told Yaron, everything is data, right? And in New York, strangely enough, we have data sets about everything. So that was a picture of Times Square. But of the 122 agencies, 300,000 employees generating data for the city, we have all kinds of data now available and freely accessible for us to use. They have data about potholes, data about restaurant ratings, data about when they'll pave the streets, data about the billboards, data. And now that it's available to us, we're trying to make sense of it. The data tsunami problem. I'll skip this, go to this animation. So we have big data. And big data is big. All the numbers, you can see all the big numbers. I'll skip that. Why do I have this on my deck? I think this is my marketing deck. But we have all this big data. But I guess one of the reasons why when I talk to people who are behind the semantic web movement, why is it not happening yet? They said, it's the boiling the ocean problem. And what we're thinking is, hey, maybe we can, instead of boiling an ocean, we can just boil the Hudson River and the East River and do it, an experiment there in New York City. So it's not link. Let me see now. So what we're focusing on are link answers, not link data. So what we're doing is, I'm sure you heard of the Tim Berners-Lee's 5-star data rating. And a lot of open data is now, at best, 3-star data, which is meaning CSV. So 1 star if you publish it, it could be PDF. 2 stars, 1 star if you publish it with an open license. 2 star if you use, put it out there, PDF. And a lot of them are just CSV files. So nobody's using URIs, nobody's using linked data yet. I mean, not at scale. So what we're doing is we're trying to do our part by doing all the linking ourselves for the city. So we have the context of New York City. Here's the data law that was passed last year. So now it's projected we have about 2,000 data sets in New York. It's projected by 2018, when the law is fully in place, there will be about 30 to 40,000 data sets just about New York City. And the city also embarked on this roadmap. So they publish this roadmap for a digital city. And one of the pillars of that roadmap is open data. Because I believe that open data is the killer app of linked data and vice versa. Because everybody says, okay, show me a semantic web application, or a lot of people who are doubting open data are saying, what's the ROI of open data? Instead of I'm just putting out data sets out there, what happens to all that data? Or businesses being built on that? So I'm thinking if we do concentrate on linking open data, it will be good, because then we don't have to pay anybody, right, for that data, and it's data that people care about. So now, I don't know why that thing came about again. Let me do a demo. So what we're doing is actually just before I came up, Marcus looked up our stats and he said we're the biggest semantic media wiki out there right now. And actually the thing is, we know that, and painfully, because as I keep harassing Yaron because he lives in New York too. Every now and then, like once a month, I would ping him, performance type troubleshooting questions. And one thing that I keep pestering him about is this whole. That's why I got excited when it's a shame Yaron is not here. But one reason why I justified coming here is when I found out that Wikidata will be here as well, because right now we have about 11 million articles, and about 15, 20 million properties, and we're just starting because there are 1 million buildings in New York City. And if we are going to track things like who the landlord is, the square footage, what the construction permits are, who's the current tenant, and that stuff, and we're just starting with buildings. What if we want to track things like organizations and all that other stuff? So it will be really, really big. So that's why earlier this year we did a little pivot. So I reached out again to Yaron and I said, you know what, instead of instantiating everything as properties, we only make semantic properties of the high-level metadata. And then for the low-level detail stuff, we use MongoDB. So we just point to MongoDB, and we use external data. Yaron thankfully extended external data to support MongoDB, and we did our own contributions. And instead of doing inline queries as queries, we do, MongoDB has this thing called an aggregation framework. So it's like instead of doing MapReduce, you can just aggregate things through a query. And then we pull that in. And then sometimes selectively, we declare the aggregations as properties. Because at the end of the day, people really care about the insights you get from the data rather than the data itself. So let me just show you something. So here's Pediacities. If I click on neighborhood. So here's, I preloaded this because it might take a while. Here's an experiment we're actually doing. I wasn't joking when I said there are 1 million buildings in New York City. And the place where we are right now, actually in Soho, you can see that we even do the outlines, the building footprints, because we extract things about this particular building. That's where we are headquartered. And we extract things about when it was built, how many floors, land value, land use, and all that good stuff. We even extract things like what the election district is. And these are coming from hundreds of data sets, right? And this is something that we extracted from the census block and track from the Census Bureau. New York City also passed a law mandating that all big buildings release energy data. So we're also getting that. And it's all pointed, as you can see here, we're pointing to all our scruffy semantics version of provenance. Is we all point to where we got the data from. And this is all pointing to data sets that we have in our CCAN. One other thing that we did is we partnered with the Open Knowledge Foundation. We're their first CCAN professional service partner in the US. So a lot of this open data, the reason why I said that it's all just 3-star data. And talking to the city, we know that it will be 3-star data at best, because as it is, it's hard for them to convince them to publish data. Right now, we have the benefit of on open data law, so I can just hit them with this club, right? But even the open data law has gaping holes, and they can always make excuses why I cannot publish data. So if you get some data from them, just take it, don't complain. So what we're doing is we take that data and we refine that data, where we link it, we enrich it, we geocode it, and we link it to other data sets, and we post the curated data in our own data repository, Pediacities. So let me see. City councils. So if for people who have used datahub.io, they just upgraded to CCAN version 2. We use CCAN version 2. We have the data in there. And just to show you what we add to the data sets that we get from the city and from other public data sources. Oh, that's too big. Let me get another data set. Getting performance problems here. So here's all the police precincts in New York City. So we got that in some proprietary ArcGIS format. We converted it to GeoJSON, and then we uploaded it here. And then with GeoJSON, when we converted it, we also, when we refine the data, we say, hey, this thing called Precinct 120 in Staten Island, when we refine the data, we do reconciliation against our knowledge base, and we say, hey, this is the URI for that thing. So now whenever we refer to this Precinct 120, we link to this URI, which is basically an SMW article, right? And we do that for everything. So even for tabular data sets, we assign an ID. And we align ourselves to schema.org, again, talking about scruffy semantics. So because the way we built NYCpedia is, if you look at the source of this, is we have JSON LD in there, which schema.org supports. So we want to be a Google honeypot for structured data about New York City. So it's still an ongoing project. Right now, I would really want to go into question answer more, because we have some things that we want to advocate to the community. Right now we have 11 million articles. If we want this corpus to be really big and comprehensive, and we want to be the de facto source for structured data about New York City, we have to be like at least an order of magnitude larger than 11 million articles. There are 1 million buildings as it is. If I store 100 facts about those buildings, I'm at 100 million already. So we're even being judicious by that estimate. So if I know there's some talk about using Wikibase, and in the mailing list there was talk of doing something with the SQL store. I would highly, maybe if we can discuss that as a community later this session. And another thing that we found is we stuck with 1.805 of SMW, largely because we were making a lot of use of semantic maps. And because what we were doing is, in terms of organizing the data, the easiest link to do right now that's non-controversial is location. So we're slicing things on, this is the neighborhood, this is the zip code, this is the precinct. But then we found some limits in semantic maps, and that's why we pivoted and start to use CartoDB, which is why you can do something like this. And that's why when there was a discussion yesterday during the Wikidata track, I asked if there is any thought about doing geospatial data types. And I'm one in that camp. I know this spring, Pierre Racine, he's not here today, but I know he's been advocating that as well. If anything, in the mailing list, I advocated that it's a good way to also not only track geospatial concepts. If you can project something to a 2D space, you can use things like, geospatial functions to do things that what's near, what's similar, what's proximity. Maybe that could be one novel use of using geospatial for generic concepts. So I just want to open up the space. The floor, if you have any questions, or if you want to put your vote into Wikibase integration, we'd like to. I know Yaron, when he put that in the mailing list, we sidetracked into MongoDB for a while, and managed to go back into Wikidata integration, Wikibase integration. I'm all for that. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Joel. Are there any questions? Is it? Is it another hand? Okay, I see.
It's kind of a bit off the topic, but I was interested in what do you find to be the most problematic performance area in Semantic Media Wiki?
Right. We're currently incubated in the NYU Poly incubator. So the good thing about that is I have access to NYU Poly, to master's level computer science candidates. That's most of our team. And I tell them about this thing, and they start getting templates, and in a day or two they're productive. But then we have like a million facts, or several million facts in our database, and they touch a template and they add a property. And you know how things are, in a startup world, we do things in production, and then that propagates to hundreds and thousands and millions of jobs in the job queue, and it never catches up. So that's why we decided this summer to stop using properties as much as for the high-level stuff. But then what that prevents me is to do some fancy ask queries that that's one of the main reasons why I want to use SMW. So SMW is not, I'm not able to show it in its full glory because I can't really do this fancy ask queries. A lot of our aggregations are being done in MongoDB and we're displaying it.
Wouldn't it be possible to farm out the job?
If you have any suggestions, we keep increasing the size of our MySQL box, but it seems that
Okay, and question from me is why do you use Wiki for the tasks that is really about publishing open data? So there is one participant, namely some kind of bot.
right. Yeah, we use PyWikipedia bot extensively. Well, the one reason why we use a wiki is, again, going back to our logo, crowd knowing is our tagline, is when we talk to the city, even with all this data, they actually are looking for more data. They're looking for data about, is this fire hydrant working? Is this street furniture in order? Right? That the crowd can contribute. Actually, we have a collaboration going on right now with a charter school in the Upper West Side, where they have students doing like census of what their environment. And we want to use the wiki because, and that's why going back to Wikidata, is they can make assertions, hey, this bike rack is broken, or this thing needs replacing, or there's a graffiti here that you didn't catch that I'll want to report. Or like in the Pluto dataset that they released that describes all the 1 million buildings, a lot of people were complaining, hey, this is not 5 floors, it's 6 floors, and it's a walk-up, and there it's an elevator. So they want to correct the data. That's why we still want to use a wiki, but as it is, as you rightly pointed out, we're more or less using it as a glorified CMS on steroids right now. But at least we know it will scale in terms of number of pages, number of URIs. We know that is not a problem. It's just the ability to do ask queries.
Do you think that what you have done is transferable to other cities? I mean, templates you develop, properties, of course, different data sets.
Yeah.
And are you aware of such attempts or some projects that try to use your work to represent information about other cities?
I know there are a lot of open data visualizations, and one thing that we want to differentiate ourselves is you see all these nice visualizations and nice maps that people build, but there's no ability for you to, when you click on a marker, to drill down to see what's that entity, right? It stops at that visualization. What we want to do is we want all those visualizations, say they use our data, first of all, they don't need to do data wrangling, they don't need to do normalizing the data, it's normalized already. And then it's almost like drill down as a service, context as a service. So when you click, I did a visualization of, say, or an app for toilet finder, right? But hey, this toilet is open, but hey, why is this toilet open? Oh, there's a Starbucks there or something, I don't know. I mean, something that came to mind. But yeah, we want, again, going back to the semantic web. So we're almost like trying to do our part in trying to jumpstart it at a city scale. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks again.